Hey, what is going on everybody, and welcome to Fantasia. For today, we're going to be jumping into another session of Epic 7L today. Got some PvE showcases for you guys. Today, we're going to be focusing on my hunt teams. I'm going to show you all 5 of the hunts and how I run through them. Now, full disclosure before we begin, this is not meant to be a guide for beginners or for people who are in the mid-game. This is just me showing how I run the teams because it's been highly requested in the comments. This is no way meant to be the most efficient way to farm, it's just how I farm. In fact, I know this particular team, the first one we're going to showcase here, Wyvern 13, has about a, I would say, 70-75% chance win rate, which is not too great. Some of you guys might have better teams than I do, but this is what I run, and it works for me. I don't have unlimited stamina, so I tend to run out during hunt buff events, so if I run it any faster, all I'll be doing is running out of stamina faster. But you see how this team works, right? Instead of using Seaside Bellona, I'm actually running Fairy Tale Tenebria, and she clears the first wave just fine. And on the second phase here, Corinne, with the speed buff from Singelica still on her, will be faster than Singelica here. She'll defense break, and with her S3, she should be applying a bleed or two. There we go, with her EE. We see Singelica bringing Alexa in for the dual attack, Fairy Tale Tenebria will chip away, and then Alexa can go in for the one-shot. Pretty scuffed team. There's definitely more efficient ways to go about this. Seaside Bellona is more consistent, for sure, but because I use her in PvP, Fairy Tale Tenebria was the way to go. Alright, so let's quickly take a look at my Wyvern units and their gear. Starting off here with Corinne, she is the defense breaker for the team. She's running a free set of destruction gear and some free hit pieces as well. Only the boots are not free, but they're still very accessible. Daydream Joker has her artifact to deal more damage, and Bleed EE here so that she can stack debuffs for Alexa to deal more damage. Corinne's also on the team imprint for crit chance, so I don't have to build F10A with 85% crit rate. I can actually cut back to about 70%. Moving here, we got Summer Disciples Alexa, and she is on the set that carries this run. It's the Rage set, really strong for one-shots. And she's also on crit set. Now, if she was on pen set, it would help out quite a bit, guarantee the one-shot a bit more consistently. I just don't have the gear for it, so this will do. She's also on Daydream Joker, again, for the extra damage. Best artifact for basically every PvE content out there. Alright, next up we have Fairy Tale Tenebria. Now, Tenebria here, she is on some pretty decent gear. Almost 4,000 attack and 350 crit damage. She needs these stats. I've kind of tuned it almost down to the T in terms of how much damage she needs to finish off that first wave of mobs. She's on Calandra as well, which helps quite a bit with that 30% increase damage dealt. Alright, and moving on here, we have Singelica. The reason why my Corinne didn't have 65% effectiveness to guarantee debuffs on the Wyvern is because we're running Super Duper Water Gun Shooter, which gives extra attack for the team, which was very useful, and it gives the extra effectiveness as well. So as you can see here, just running through her stats, she's level 50, 4-star awakened, doesn't need any bulk, just needs a bit of speed and a 200 effect resistance, which we have on the nose. The speed here, she just needs to be careful. Mine could be a little bit slower, to be honest, because sometimes she will speed RNG my Corinne in the Wyvern phase. Corinne needs to go first to get the defense break up before Singelica dual attacks. So her speed does need to be a little bit lower. I just don't really have the gear to tweak around with right now. Next up on the list, we have the hunt that I pretty much never do ever, is Golem. So let's go ahead and see what we have here. This is my team. I try to reuse as many of the units that I can from other hunts as possible. So we have Sirmia as our main damage dealer, Free Spiritaria, Vivian from my Banshee one-shot team, and then pretty much just a randomly geared soul bad guy with some spear gear attached to him. This is a Golem quote-unquote one-shot team. Now, if I tweaked the gear more, or if I actually invested molas and stuff into Soul Bad Guy, then I would actually be able to finish off the Golem much quicker. But with this team and how it's set up right now, Vivian actually is not supposed to kill the first wave. Soul and Surmi are going to use their S3s. This allows Surmi to actually get a greater attack buff for the second round. And yeah, just going to see how it plays out here. Free Spiritaria is the defense breaker, so this run can get 15%ed, but because I don't really care about the consistency of the runs here, it just has to be good enough, so it's an 85% clear rate. As you can see, Soul Bad Guy dealing insane amounts of damage, and Surmia getting to finish off the Golem. So it's a pretty quick and easy run. I never farm Golem though, so it's just using the spare things that I have laying around. But if it works, it works. Okay, so let's take a quick look at my Golem 13 quote-unquote one-shot team. Currently using Surmia. She's on a rage set, has crit set to help round out her stats, give her a 100% crit rate. For the consistency, although she doesn't really need it for this, you could actually stack more damage on her because she works with 85% crit into the Golem. But this is, again, the exact same build I use for farming Caides 13, so that's why I keep that there. Next up, Soul Bad Guy. Yeah, on some spare rage pieces, as you can see, they didn't roll really well. This one's not even reforged. This one was something from Nightmare Raid drop that wasn't even reforgeable. Something from a random chest that I opened from Automaton Tower. A decent pen ring, but nobody was using at the moment, and a filler kind of pen boot, right, with attack percent. So he works. Daydream Joker, of course, for some extra damage. And yes, an MVP of the run, actually. Next up, we have our Vivian from Banshee 13. She's actually running the exact same gear and the exact same artifact and setup. You guys will see later on when we get to our Banshee 13 runs. But yeah, you can see she's pretty much just optimized at level 50 to do these PvE runs. Next up, Free Spirit Tieria, running, again, her Banshee 13 gear. You'll see how she works in that run too, but her effectiveness is just enough, I guess 1% shy, so instead of getting 15%, we can get 16%ed, but a reforge on anything would fix that. I just don't want to invest the gear into my PvE units. Daydream Joker for some additional damage, and the immunity is actually not too bad when you're taking into account that the Golem and things can defense break. Next up, we have our Banshee 13 one-shot team. So I use Yufine as my one-shotter in this comp. The other units are all level 50. The reason why I use these 4 units is because I refuse to build units exclusively for this. I didn't want to 6-star Viking. I didn't want to 6-star any of the other units that I currently am running here. And I did already have Yufine built, and I wanted to use her somewhere. This is before she got her buff that made her insane in PvP, but fortunately that buff didn't actually hinder her results, her ability to act as my one-shotter in Banshee. So yeah, the other 3 units are able to clear the first wave with a lot of perfectly timed CR pushes and things like that, speed tuning as well. As you can see here, Shadow Rose defense breaks, and Free Spirit Tieria, she can also defense break, so I have a double defense break going. Helps mitigate some of the 15% that can happen, and Yufine finishes things off. Now, the only way that this run really fails is when Vivian brings Yufine for a dual attack, and that just completely ruins things. It's a dead run. This is not my most consistent team, but it is over like a 90-95% clear rate for it, easily. Alright, so let's give a quick little rundown of my Banshee 13 one-shot units. You see that Yufine here is actually rocking the same rage set gear that my Alexa is on. Usually swap the gear when I switch hunts to farm. She's on Hellcutter. Now, I could lower my crit chance for my Yufine. and Hell Cutter would be perfect, but I'm mostly using it for the attack stacks because my crit chance is actually pretty high. If I had pen set, I could use that instead of a crit set, but it's not needed. You don't need to, you know, overkill the one shot on a Banshee. And her EE literally doesn't matter because effectiveness is worthless on the one-shot team, and all of these EEs, they don't affect her S3. Alright, moving on, we got Vivian. Now, Vivian's pieces are hot garbage, maybe except for her weapon, and she doesn't really have any speed on her pieces, and this is on purpose because she's perfectly speed-tuned with the rest of the team to go. You might have noticed I have Warhorse shenanigans going on. So after she pops her S3, which gives her 50% combat readiness, Warhorn will kick in after the enemy mobs move, and it gains 20%. Shadow Rose will push her up, and then she'll be taking the turn to clean things up before Yufine takes hers. Next up, we have Free Spirit Tieria. She is the second defense breaker, kind of like the fail-safe for the team. She's rocking some free destruction pieces, as you can see here, besides the helmet. And, yeah, running some crit chance necklace and crit chance boots. She is rocking some effectiveness, though, for that defense break to make sure it happens. And she really just has enough damage to make sure that the first wave of mobs gets wiped out, but also that she brings the Banshee down enough so that Yufine does fall into the one-shot range. That's why I have Daydream Joker here, to help her out with a bit of damage, and you just get an EE for the attack. You don't really care for any of the effects. As long as you have an attack ring, or sorry, an attack EE here, you'll be fine. Last but not least, I have Shadow Rose. She's, again, level 50 like the other support units. She's only 3-star awakened, and she's on some hot garbage gear. Just gear that I've rolled back during like my first year of playing this game, and it works on PvE units, right? So, you know, why toss it if it works? She is perfectly, again, speed-tuned to go with the rest of the team. She is not on speed boots here. She's just on this to complete the speed set. She's at exactly enough speed, perfectly where I want her. The effectiveness is a little high. You only need 65 effectiveness against the Banshee, but we are on Super Duper Water Gun Shooter as well to help the team with the attack boost and with the effectiveness boost here. Right, but yeah, Shadow Rose definitely doesn't need this much effectiveness. She also buffs her own effectiveness with her skill. Alright guys, so next up we have our Azimanak 13 hunt stage, which I clear without a one-shot. Is not a very fast team. In fact, it's probably slower than my Caides runs, which you guys will see soon. But we were going with Tama, Landy, Bellona, and Luluka. Bellona and Luluka here for support. Bellona's S2 has a strip EE, so that helps a lot with getting rid of the bosses in rage. Luluka is actually on Ayla Violin, which again helps strip that the boss. Tama also has 100 effectiveness, which again helps strip the buffs off the boss. With longer prolonged fights, yes, great use of words, but with longer fights like this into A13, you definitely want to have a way to strip the boss. Otherwise you'll be wiping pretty quickly, or you'll have to tank massive amounts of damage. But yeah, Landy's the main DPS in this run, mostly because she can help reset her S3. She has a bunch of consistent AoEs. And yeah, she's pretty decent at turn cycling the team with her CR push and her speed buff. Now, you see those eggs there. The key to A13 is to just kill off those eggs, and you will be able to deal more damage to the boss. It gets rid of that defense buff that's on him. So what we have here right now is just chipping away at the boss until you have your AoEs back. Now, Bellona has 2 AoEs, Luluka has an AoE, Landy has an AoE that comes back pretty quickly. Bellona's also on Bloodstone, just for a little bit of extra sustain. Alright, here comes Landy's S3 to kill off the eggs. As you can see, we're still doing quite a bit of damage there. Alright, Ayla Violin stripping off the enrage off the boss. Tama's going into idle form, so with that defense break, we should be able to do a ton of damage here. Alright, Bellona's going for the S2. Unfortunately, the boss resisted that strip there, but that's okay. Tama is also here to strip some buffs. Yep, there we go. Unfortunately, the mobs do come back, so we do have to deal with them over and over again, which is why you want, again, units like Bellona, Vildred, Arbiter Vildred for their AoEs. Alright, there we go. Luluka's going to be able to finish off the eggs. Luluka and Bellona both actually apply pretty consistent defense break, which is quite nice. Now, everyone's silenced here, but everyone is able to deal a bunch of damage to the defense-broken boss. Bellona getting those extra defense break procs is very, very nice. And yeah, we should be able to, even with these eggs here, we should be able to finish the boss off now. It's really low on health. It is still defense broken. And I know everyone looks like they're getting really low, but with Bloodstone and Tama's healing, you really don't wipe using a team like this. Alright, and there you have it. Landy finishing things off. So, overall, not a bad run. About 3 minutes. It's not the fastest, but it's also not the longest thing in the world. Alright, so let's go over the gear of the units that I use for A13. We have our Tamarin here that I use in a lot of other PvE content in the game. She has enough effectiveness, enough effect resist for everything PvE, with decent speed, a little bit of bulk, and she's on Magaraha's Tome for the turn cycle. As you can see, her gear isn't fantastic, it's just kind of usable. Next up we have Luluka. She is also used in various PvE content as well. I usually use her in my Caides one-shot, or not Caides one-shot, but my Caides runs. And yeah, you guys will be able to see that coming up very, very shortly. She's also on Aila Violin here to strip the buffs off the boss. And she's on the extra hit on her S1, just for extra damage because she's on Rage Set, she's a DPS, and for extra chances to strip with Aila Violin, and extra chances to apply the defense break. Next up we have Bellona. She's on a pretty decent little PvE build, just some damage, a little bit of effectiveness. Ideally I get her damage up a little bit more so that she can actually finish off those eggs from 100 to 0. As you can see in the run, she was kind of just a little bit shy each time of sweeping those eggs. So I need to tweak her gear a little bit, but that's just a bit more damage that I need to squeeze out from some of the gear. As you can see, the EE here is dispelling a buff from all enemies when using the S2, which is why she's actually great for A13. Last but not least, we have Landy, and she's pretty good for what she's worth here. Just on Daydream Joker for additional damage. She's on a PvP build, 250 something speed. Ideally you make her slower and you make her hit much, much harder. You can even have somebody on a Rage Set that can do just as much damage or more damage. But yeah, Daydream Joker as well for the additional damage. And of course, last but not least, we have everyone's favorite hunt to do, which is Caides 13. So my Caides team is actually fairly standard, I would say. Tama, Assyria, Sirmia, and Luluka. We'll go ahead and jump in, and I'll show you the run. Now, you're going to notice that I turned my Luluka skills off. When I had her skills on, the run still went pretty smooth. The only issue was that she would be kind of mis-synced with all the other units in terms of her skills. So you have things like her using her S2 when the boss was defense broken or target debuffed, and we lose out on a ton of damage. But by disabling her skills, we still get a chance to get the defense breaks, we still get all the consistent damage, and she also is on her S1EE, which allows her to proc additional hits with a 35% chance. And that can, you know, help deal more damage, help inflict more defense breaks, which is quite nice. But yeah, the first mob here in the fight is actually the most annoying part. The Sirmia takes, you know, makes quick work of that, and we're able to progress to the next stage. Now the boss stage here, Assyria is on Song of the Stars. There is a chance for Sirmia to land the unhealable debuff, which does impact the run a little bit. it'll cause the boss to cleanse, but it is super rare because Sirmia has no effectiveness and the boss has a ton of resistance. So you see here we have the greater attack buff. Sirmia is going to go in for a hit, and yeah, we are pretty much done with the run. Sirmia has a chance to actually end the run on that first hit if she procs her EE. That allows her to do another S1 attack. But as you can see, Azimanak inflicting all these debuffs here. We should be in pretty good standing. All the units are fairly tanky. Get a little bit of healing, replenish the attack buff, and the next turn cycle it should be over. But yeah, this run is pretty consistent. I really don't have any issues with failure. See, Luluka has a chance to proc a second time as well, and if she didn't there, Sirmia would have ended it on her next turn. But yeah, pretty quick and easy run. Alright, so let's take a look at the units that I use for the Caides 13 run. I have my Sirmia on a rage set. It is the same Sirmia build that I use for quite a few other PvE contents in the game. She's on Daydream Joker for some additional damage, and she is on the EE with a 25% chance to attack again with her S1, which can just end the run much quicker. Next up we have Tamarin. Tamarin is on the same gear that I use for her in other hunts, in other PvE content like expeditions. Yeah, she's fairly fast. She has the effectiveness to strip the boss's buffs if he does buff in this case. Most of the time I'm just using her for her speed with Magarahas to help her cut and turn cycle and get her idle form off. Okay, next we have Luluka. And Luluka's also on a rage set. It is not a great rage set, as you can tell, but the quality of the gear is just not that great. But filler pieces, and honestly a couple of pieces are free as well from opening boxes or doing nightmare raids. And she's on a crit set that's fairly accessible too. On Daydream Joker to help with some additional damage, and of course the extra chance to proc her S1, which is also a reason I'm able to turn her skills off and still have the run do well. And last but not least, we have Azimanak here. She is speed-tuned with my Tamarin, and also by turning off the skills on Luluka, you have a greater chance that Azimanak is actually going to reset either the Sirmia or the Tamarin, both of which are good options for reset. Sirmia for additional damage, and Tama for the idle form. She's on Song of the Stars. It's a little risky. If you want, you can switch it to Miss Confiel. But I find that Song of the Stars just helps the runs go much quicker, and it rarely happens that Sirmia lands her unhealable. But you know what, guys? With that being said, that is going to be it for all of my hunt runs, all of my units, and all of my gear. But yeah, just a little disclaimer for you guys at the very end, yet again, these runs and these units and these gears, they're all catered towards what I have on hand and what I want to make use of. Obviously, you can have much more optimized runs with a lot of one-shot teams. Check out Tristan Wolf's channel if you're very interested in getting that nitty-gritty min-maxing down. But I am not that kind of player. You see, I use a lot of level 50 units, a lot of spare gear laying around, and I just make things work. And I encourage you guys to test out your own units, your own team combinations, and use the gear that you have laying around to make things work. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, subscribe for more Epic 7 content, and leave a comment down below letting me know what I can do to improve. And until next time, take care.